All right, now let me pull up my YouTube dashboard so I can see what's going on. Okay, here we go. So I've hemmed and hawed over the last day or so making this video. Well, I was initially going to go live. I wanted some time to think about what was going on though, and then I was going to make a video, and then I decided not to. Um, and so finally, I kind of last minute here, I decided to go live with it, and whether anybody watches me live or not doesn't matter. The point's going to remain the same, and the video will be up in my on my live section. Anyway, I want to start out by saying I like Linus and I like LTT and the content that they bring. In a lot of ways, I feel like I've kind of outgrown it from a tech standpoint. I think that a lot of the stuff that they do is, it's catered to, they make content for the masses, right? I kind of had thought that with the investment into the labs that we would start to see some higher quality tech content, but as this whole kind of debacle has shown, maybe that's not the case. Um, but I'm not gonna. I don't want to. I don't want to get a pitchfork out. I don't. I think that we should have a reasonable discussion about this and see how Linus and the people at LTT handle this before we pass any kind of final judgment. I mean, we don't know enough right now to really judge anything. LTT has grown so much from when he started out, and I kind of just wonder. This is obviously growing pains. Linus admits that um, in his response on the LTT forums. So he's owned up to that. It's kind of sort of though his response to Steve that's the problem. His response to or about Billet Labs is a problem. Um, but it's hard being on top, right? And you, I don't know how I would react in a similar situation. I do feel like he got caught with his pants down and he didn't respond appropriately. And I kind of get it. I don't think is the right response, but I do kind of get it because his house is under attack. His castle is under attack. He's got a lot of people that count on him. He feeds a lot of mouths, a lot of families that are employed at LTT. Um, and so I think he went on the offensive to try and protect his house. I don't agree with his tactic, and I hope that he kind of changes course here as the week and as more time goes by. Um, Look, I'm wearing my LTX 2023 sweatshirt. You can only get this hoodie at LTX. I spent a ton of money to go to LTX. So obviously I'm a fan of Linus and Linus Tech Tips. So this is kind of, it doesn't make me feel good that this stuff is going on, or that I just, spent a bunch of money to go to Vancouver and go to LTX, and, I bought merch and all the things, and I had a great time, but now this is kind of raising some questions that are like, ugh, I just don't know. So, in case you don't know, if you haven't seen it yet, this is the video, as far as I can tell, that started everything. So, this is Murph's Gaming, and this guy Murph was able to get in on the LTT tour. I wasn't able to. Those things I checked out in like 10 minutes, and my cart was already expired with the lab or with the shop tour and everything. So this Murph guy was able to get in.
My name is Murph's Gaming, and welcome back to the channel. Today we are here in...
And we're just going to skip right ahead here. It's right about 8:40. 8:30. So this is actually what started everything.
How many of you have seen a review of a component from LTT? You know, like a graphics card or a CPU? Yeah? This is where it happens. The difference between us and somebody like Gamers Nexus or Hardware Unboxed is we test new components, new tests every time. Every project that we do has new data. This is
So if I'm taking that correctly, I'm reading that into that as he's saying that Hardware Unboxed and Gamers Nexus do not retest older stuff when it has new drivers, etc., when they test new stuff that has come out. That's how I'm understanding it. If I'm wrong, somebody correct me, or if you've got a different take that it could be. But that's how I'm interpreting it, and that's what caused all the issue in my mind, because as far as I know, I watch a good bit of Hardware Unboxed, and I watch pretty much all of Steve's videos. They do retest stuff. Your buddy LTT got chewed out? Yeah, he sure did. That's what we're talking about now. If you got any thoughts on the matter, you know, throw them up in the chat. So this dude came right at Hardware Unboxed and Gamers Nexus. So again, like, I feel like Linus is protecting his house. Steve came out guns blazing, but he did so, in my opinion, completely professionally and objectively, all things considered. I feel like there's, and this is just my opinion, but it does seem like there's been some beef brewing between the two. You know, Steve had that video about he's going to treat LTT as a corporation now and not as an individual, and that sparked some controversy and whatnot. And now this. So I don't know. I don't know if there's beef there, if there's some feud, if Steve and Linus don't actually get along. You know, Steve wasn't at LTX. All the other huge creators were, and Steve wasn't. So read into that or not, I don't know that means anything. I'm not saying it means anything, but Steve definitely was not there. Jay was there. Paul was there. Danny was there. Hardware Canucks was there. Wendell was, I mean, everybody was there, but not Steve. So that is what it is. But this is, so this is the first video that Steve put out yesterday. I'm just going to play the first little bit here because it has some of the clips of the comments made about stuff.
A few days ago, this clip from an LTT lab tour got a lot of attention online.
The difference between us,
so this is the one that we just watched.
Gamers Nexus or Hardware Unboxed.
It's just a couple seconds.
New components, new tests every time.
And then Hardware Unboxed tweeted dissatisfaction with the...
Oh wait, see that? I wish he... Where...
And then Hardware Unboxed tweeted...
Okay, it goes away so fast. Oh no, bit of a big oof moment. LTT Labs taking shots. I've rerun more benchmarks than Linus has spent money on testing equipment and staff. And that is objectively, demonstrably true. Go check out Hardware Unboxed. You'll see that this is legit.
Dissatisfaction with the statement made in that tour.
There's another one that went by real quick there.
And then Hardware Unboxed tweeted dissatisfaction with the statement.
I didn't want to say it, but yeah, LTT Labs should look to refine their data, not throw it out and end up with more results that often don't make sense. Not to be salty, but we've all seen it way more than we should.
Statement made in that tour. We didn't say anything at all, anywhere, even though it's not actually true. They don't collect.
So Steve goes through, and I recommend watching both of Steve's videos. Steve goes through and shows, he compares Linus's data against, or LTT's data against LTT's data. It's not like he's looking at, he's not comparing LTT data to his data or Hardware Unboxed data or anybody else's data. He's finding errors comparing their own stuff to itself. And that's a pretty intense thing to have happen when you've got your staff calling out other creators for basically not doing a thorough job. So I think that the I think that the shot that killed Archduke Ferdinand was that employee's comment at LTX at that office tour. If that hadn't happened, I don't think any of this goes down. Let's see. I want more cash. That's why he wasn't there, but Linus know he in the wrong for overworking his team and pushing 25 videos a week. Yeah, now, I don't know. I think that's fairly close to accurate in terms of how many videos the whole LMG pushes out a week. I think it is around 20. And there's plenty of clips. Again, watch Steve's videos. There's clips of LMG employees saying that they wish they had more time to do stuff. And then you've got Linus's comment about, so this Billet Labs thing, his comment about, well, I would have had to spend $100, $200, up to $500 in people's time to retest it. Well, yeah, then that's what you do, where you don't publish the video, right? If you're unfamiliar with what happened, this company Billet Labs created a really cool looking machined water block for a 3090 Ti, and Linus put it on a 4090, and it didn't fit right, so it didn't work right. So he gave it a bad review, even though he didn't put it on the right GPU. And then his defense of that is, well, even if it was 20 degrees cooler, he still wouldn't recommend to buy it because it's an egregious waste of money. Well, you could also say that a Porsche Taycan is a egregious waste of money. Nobody is shopping for, a custom water block like that gives a crap about a budget, So I really think that that's a bad take on that. Review it for what it is, show the real performance on the GPU it was meant for, and then, you can have a disclaimer like, yeah, this thing works really well, but do you really want to spend $800 on a water block? And the answer is going to be, yeah, there are people out there that would spend $800 on a water block. I mean, you have no idea the amounts of money that some people have and what they put into their hobbies. I mean, so it's just a really weird take. We got some comments coming in here. Great coverage, bro, from Raw Tech. Thanks, man. I really appreciate that. More cash. I just watched the video about an hour ago and I see everything happening. It was supposed to work for a 39. Yeah, it was supposed to work for a 3090 Ti. But the real kicker here, and I think this, the testing snafus, I can let go because, I've not been doing this long. I make plenty of mistakes. I watched some of my old videos. I'm like, oh, I wish I would have worded that different or said something different there. And I've put asterisks myself up and, corrected stuff that I said on screen, with a text blurb or whatever. So I can't say anything about that. And everybody, all of these YouTubers, all these tech content creators make mistakes. So it's not the mistakes that are the problem. It's the fact that his staff called out other people on quality control, essentially, and then this is what LMG is putting out. That's the problem. And then this Billet Labs thing. So not only did they review it poorly after using it on the wrong GPU, they didn't return it. And this is the deets for this are in Steve's second video from today. Linus tried to make it sound like in his response on the LTT forums that, well, they had agreed on a settlement, like an amount of money, and they were going to pay it back and whatnot. But Steve revealed today in that last video that they didn't actually hear from Linus until like 3 hours after Steve had published the video. So that's kind of disingenuous. And then they auctioned the thing off at LTX for charity. I don't know why I'm doing air quotes. It probably really is for charity. But they sold it after the company had asked for it back like 2 times. And that's pretty wild to me. nobody sends me anything, so I'm not entirely certain how this works yet. But I do know that some of these review samples get sent out for tech tubers to review, and a lot of it has to get sent back. The bigger channels get stuff, just given to them for free, but I think some of the smaller ones actually have to send stuff back. And this is a small company, this billet outfit. So yeah, I could see them, and it was their only, or maybe not their only, I forget the wording, but it was their prototype for this water block, and it was one of a kind. And so they wanted it back to continue working on it. Well, yeah, they were supposed to send it back more cash. That's so there I think the money is almost irrelevant. Like, whatever Linus pays for it, do they have the capability to start from the place that they were at? I would think so. I would think that they have, whatever, architectural drawings, if that's the right word, to be able to remill one or however, or remachine it, if they wanted to. But what if, whoever bought it at this auction, works for EK, or they work for Corsair, or whomever, and they're going to try and reverse engineer it and make one that's almost as good but a little cheaper or something, or finish it off. They could get it, somebody could get a head start with that prototype in their hands, and maybe it's not worth it. Maybe that prototype is junk. I don't know, but it's the thought about having your intellectual property, you lend it out to one of the most revered tech tubers on the planet, and you expect to get it back and expect to get a fair review, and you get neither. And the only way you even get attention drawn to your situation is by this controversy that's exploded around LTT. So that to me is a bigger deal than the money thing regarding it, and it's a bigger deal than the testing snafu. I really wonder what's going to happen to that guy that made that comment. I'm almost certain that he was just not really thinking about what he was saying. Maybe he just made that up on the spot. Maybe he's trying to sound cool, or maybe he's just trying to brag on how good, he felt like he and his team do. And that's fine. I can get that. But man, what a big way to cause problems for your boss. So I wonder if he'll face any disciplinary action or anything. It'd be real easy to say he should be sacked, right? Like, fire him, get him out of there. That's probably a little heavy-handed. I don't know anything about that guy. I don't think he's in videos or anything. I think he just maybe works in the labs. But he's there for a reason. I'm sure that he has plenty to offer LMG. So I don't want to personally call for his firing, but I think instead of that wordy one-page reply that really said nothing at all that Linus wrote, I think he should have had that guy make a short little video and apologize for what he said. I want more cash. I would sue LTT. I mean, I think that that's a viable option. If I was that company with the part, yeah. The other piece of it is, maybe, I'm sure Linus or somebody at LTT knows who bought the thing or who won it in the auction. Offer them 2 times, 3 times what they paid for it. See if they can get it back, and see if they can return it to Billet Labs. I think that would be the right thing to do. Now, whoever won it at the auction, maybe they don't want to sell it back, and that's their prerogative. But I feel like Linus should try, and maybe he is. Maybe he is right now. Maybe he did try and was unsuccessful. I don't know, but that it would be nice to hear those things, right from Linus, that he attempted to do those things. But I didn't. I want to pull up. I thought I already had it up here, but I don't. LTT forums. So yeah, right here. Go to this post. So this is the reply that Linus wrote. I would want it to be, I would be like, I want tenfold. I mean, that might be a little bit much, but there should be some compensation for it, right? For sure. And right off the bat, there won't be a big WAN show segment about this or anything. Most of what I have to say, I've already said and done so privately, whatever that means. This is going to probably be the most people that have ever tuned into a WAN show, regardless that he has said that. And I think I don't know what he's going to have to do, but I feel like the smart thing to do would be to address it. I don't think that with all the coverage, I've seen this on non-tech tube news outlets or whatever you want, more talking head videos, people that are not in the space talking about this. So I don't feel like Linus can just brush it under the rug. Maybe he can. I mean, he's got 15, 16 million subscribers. How many of them are even going to know about this or pay any attention to it? I don't know. It might not affect him one iota. I think that it will, but we'll just have to see as time goes on what happens. But this first paragraph, to Steve, I expressed my disappointment that he didn't go through proper journalistic practices in creating this piece. I'm not a journalist, and I didn't go to college for it, but I did write for the school paper and study journalism in high school, so I know like a couple things about it. And I think that Steve's pieces do reflect journalistic integrity. You probably could make an argument that he should have spoke to Linus first and said, hey, this is what your boy said, and I'm gonna, I've uncovered all this, I've put this video together, let him watch it privately, put it up for an hour, let Linus watch it maybe, and say, I'm gonna release this, what is your side of this? I think that would have been a more interesting piece, and I don't know if Linus would have actually even done that. That might have been a cool thing to do, but I don't think you can say that he didn't go through proper journalistic practices. And I don't know what context Linus is talking about. He does, in this paragraph say that he owns the errors. He stressed the importance of diligence in our work. We're going through growing pains, been very public about, and that's true. That is true. We know we're not perfect. We wear imperfections on our sleeves. It's a great group of people there. I think Linus as an individual is probably a great dude. I don't think that there's any malice in Linus's heart or anybody at LTT about anybody. But I guess it's hard to say. We don't ever know what's really in someone's heart. But I like to assume, that people mean good at baseline until they prove me otherwise. With all that said, I still disagree that the Billet Labs video, not the situation with the return, which I've already addressed above, is an accuracy issue. It's more like I just read the room wrong. We could have retested it with perfect accuracy, but to do so properly, etc., would have been impossible and also didn't affect the conclusion of the video, or so I thought. Well, if that's true and you couldn't do it correctly, then you should have scrapped the video. And this is just my opinion. Maybe I don't know crap about crap, but I feel like he's saying they tested it on the wrong GPU. He's saying that they couldn't have retested it because the radiator's being plumbed. So just scrap the video then. Send Billet Labs their thing back and be like, you know what? We couldn't get this done to the best of our ability or in holding with the standards that we have for our videos. So we're not going to do the video anymore. And here's your part back. I think that would have been a great way to handle that. But instead he put out this half-baked video and, I don't have anything else to say about it. It's pretty crazy to me that this happened that way. And again, we're looking at it from the outside in. You know, I don't have Linus's perspective. I don't have Billet Labs' perspective. Like, there's three sides to every story, right? Yours, mine, and the truth. Um, we may or may not ever know what the whole 100% truth is to this. With all this in mind, it saddens me how quickly the pitchforks were raised over this. It also comes a touch hypocritical when some basic due diligence could have helped clarify much of it. I have a long history of meeting issues head on. I've never been afraid to answer. This whole thing just smacks of attitude. He does have a point. The pitchforks did get raised pretty quickly. That doesn't surprise me. That's kind of the way this world operates nowadays, but he's definitely not wrong there. And that's why I'm wearing my shirt in solidarity. Like, I hope that they turn this around. But so far this has been majorly bungled. And again, that's just my opinion. I take it with a grain of salt, but I think that I approached it with a pretty forgiving and analytical mind. So I think he's got to address it on the WAN show. Maybe he doesn't do it this week. Maybe he does it next week. Maybe he doesn't do it at all. But I think that would be the optimal forum for him to address it in, so that it's in real time and people can talk about it. And maybe for that particular WAN show, he could allow comments or look at comments that aren't just super chats, I don't want to keep beating a dead horse. There's an hour of other videos out there to watch. I encourage you to go watch them. I encourage you to think about it critically and form your own opinion. Don't just jump on anybody's side just because. I like all these people. I started my channel largely from inspiration from LTT. Not just LTT. I mean, there's a lot of other people out there that inspired me, but LTT was a big one. So I don't want to crush them. Not that I have the power to do that anyway. I'm just saying, I don't wish them any harm. I don't wish Linus any harm. I want everybody to be happy and successful. And hopefully all of this can get worked out amicably, but we'll see. We'll see how it plays out. So the next thing I wanted to talk about tonight is building a budget PC. I've attempted this in the past, and that first build that we did, the ultimate budget build for 2023 back in January, that was, depending on the GPU that we inserted into that, was a high $600 to mid $700 build. Now, I think in 2023, well, any number is a budget, but I do think in 2023 that $750 is more of a budget build, or as much of a budget build as the old $500 builds used to be. That being said, I still see a lot of posts on Facebook, on Instagram, comments on YouTube. I've only got $500, or I've got a $500 budget. There's a lot of people out there that really want to build a PC for $500 and be able to game on it. And so I explore it from time to time. I explore the idea, looking at, I try and build it on paper and see if I can piece something together that would give me reasonable gaming performance for $500 or less. I may have, well, I didn't get there. I don't think. I want to show you what I did first. So I thought, what is, if I'm not trying to get the best of the best, if I'm only shooting for 1080p, maybe even just medium settings, what will get me by? What can actually play games? And I think in that there's a caveat that maybe this is not going to play brand new AAA games. I think that a lot of, if I can come up with something for $500, I don't think it's going to play Hogwarts Legacy, for example, at least not well. I don't think it's going to play Cyberpunk well. But but it might be able to play Baldur's Gate. Baldur's Gate doesn't have a huge requirement for system specs, and it might play Diablo. Diablo's not too hard to play either. Armored Core 6 that's coming out looks like it has pretty reasonable system specs. So those games gave me some hope that maybe something would work, instead of just, a lot of these games that like Toasty Bros and stuff makes, I worry about how they'll play anything other than esports. And maybe esports is your thing and that's all you want to play, then yeah, I think some of these, using used and old parts for $300-$400, I think is viable. But at any rate, I wanted to see what I could do at Micro Center if I shopped for brand new stuff instead of trying to go the used route, which to get under $500, I think is the way to go. And I came up with something that wasn't half bad. So, and this is Micro Center, so, this isn't going to apply to everybody or even probably most people that'll watch this video, right? But I do have one, so I'm going to explore that. And so what I came up with was they have this, you can get a 5600X with a B450 gigabyte board. It's a DS3H Wi-Fi motherboard. That's a decent board. I if you've watched any of my build videos, you see me use a couple of gigabyte DS3H motherboards, and I like them. Asus is my favorite. I just really like their BIOS. I like the aesthetics of the boards. I like the features that they give me. But these gigabyte boards, these B series boards are nice boards. I like them. So $200 for the newest 6-core 12-thread AM4 Ryzen 5 CPU and what I consider pretty decent Wi-Fi motherboard. So, and it actually, it's supposed to be $199, but for some reason it drops like another $7 and it's down to $193. So I'm going to add that in the cart. Continue shopping. Now, I've got a couple of kits. I've got two 2x8 kits of G.Skill 3200 CL16 RAM. So I'm also cheating a little bit there, but RAM is pretty cheap. These kits of RAM in particular are only $38. So it would add $38 to this build, but I'm not including it in this one since I already have two kits. So then I thought, okay, what is the next most expensive thing? And honestly, other than the graphics card, it's going to be the power supply. And with the graphics card that I have in mind, and you guys are going to revolt on me, but I think for what we're trying to do here, I think it's reasonable. So I think a 600 to 650 watt power supply is all I need. And what I found was this power spec for $64.99, and then they have it must be a newer model here. Oh, this price increased. It's $79.99. Oh no, just kidding. That's an 80 plus gold. I don't know what the difference here between these two is. This is 650 watt, 80 plus bronze, semi-modular for $69.99. And this one is also an 80 plus bronze, 650 watt for $5 less. But it's talking about SLI Crossfire. So this leads me to believe this is an older one. So I was like, okay, I'm going to get the $70 one. It's $5 to get the newer one. And Power Spec is the Micro Center brand, and they're reviewed fairly well. People seem to like them. So that's what I decided to go with there. So then we need storage, internal SSDs. And I don't think there's any sense in today's day and age of buying anything less than a terabyte of storage, and it should be on an NVMe. So with that gigabyte board, we've got two M.2 slots. The top one is PCIe Gen 4 and the bottom one is Gen 3. So let's say we want to put a Gen 4 drive in there. Well, I think the cheapest and at the same time best brand is a Crucial P3 Plus. It's got speeds up to 5,000. P3 Plus, 1 terabyte. Yeah, this guy right here. Read speeds up to 5,000 megabytes per second. Write speeds up to 3,600. That's a middle of the road Gen 4 drive. My Solidigm that I just bought, my P44 Plus, goes up to 7,000. So that's a faster drive, but it was also, I think the Solidigm is $20 more. Where did the brands go? Solidigm. So the P40, oh, you can get a P41 2 terabyte for $70. And these prices on drives are good at Micro Center, but they're pretty much the same as at Amazon and Newegg. So you can get a deal almost as good as this, if not the same, somewhere else. So Solidigm P44 Pro 1 terabyte is $70. So it's almost double the price of that Crucial P3 Plus. But like I said, it does go up to 7,000 read and 6,500 write. But we're talking about a budget PC. We're trying to keep it as cheap as possible, but in my mind, without picking total crap. I'm okay with making compromises, but I don't want to make big compromises. So I think this is for $39, $38.99. You get a Gen 4 drive, 1 terabyte. I think that's maybe the perfect drive for a build like this. Rawtech says, I got a Red Devil 7900 XTX for $930 after a $100 coupon. Wow. Replace your 3080 Tough. That's a pretty monster upgrade, man. I'm actually, by the way, I'm streaming this on my AMD system. The AMD system is built, guys. I'm trying to, I got back from LTX and a lot of things coalesced at once that I had to work on and deal with, namely getting the LTX footage done. And then I kind of fell into Baldur's Gate head first. Not going to lie, I've been spending a lot of time on Baldur's Gate. So I'm still wading through a lot of the footage. I am going to, I'm not going to say tomorrow or anything, but this week, at least the build video will be up. I'm still working on some of the benchmarks. I had some stuff that I had to redo because some things weren't set up correctly. But now I've got everything running pretty smooth. So I'm going to get all the benchmarking done with the games and the 3D Mark stuff. But I'm streaming right now on that system with the 5600 X3D and the Sapphire Nitro Plus 7900 XTX. And so far it seems to be going well. I don't know. I am curious how it would work if I was gaming instead of just showing you guys the web browser over here. But for this broadcast, this is working. For this broadcast, it's working totally fine. So back to the build. $38.99. Did I put that in the cart? No, I didn't put it in the cart yet. Or did I? We'll find out when I go to the cart. So we've got a power supply. We've got a CPU and motherboard. So we need a graphics card and we need a case. Remember, I'm not doing RAM because I already have RAM. So let's go, and you're probably not going to be shocked by this if you've watched my content, but check out where our desktop cases. And that Gigabyte board is a micro ATX board, the one that comes in the bundle. So I want a micro ATX. And look at this. They've got 19 Montech Air 100 ARGBs in stock. You cannot go wrong with this case. And I don't even care if you're not on a budget, if you've got oodles of dollars to spend. If you want a micro ATX case for whatever reason, that thing is your jam. Unless you want to go with something like the Lee and Lee, the Landcool 205 mesh, and add a rear fan to it, that's a reasonable option. But it's already $5 more, so then you got to throw another, I don't know, $15, $20 on there for a fan, right? I mean, I guess you can buy You could buy like an Antec fan for $5 or something and throw it on there. But even if you do that, you're still $10 more than this guy. And if you remember right, this is what we used in the ultimate budget gaming PC 2023 is this case. Here it is again, $60. I think this is the absolute most case you can get per dollar on the market. I mean, it's got good airflow. You get 4 fans with it, and they're ARGB fans. It's easy to build in. It looks pretty nice. It's pretty basic at the same time, but it's got good craftsmanship, good quality for a $60 case, you know. So I think this is the way to go here, is with this guy. Raw Tech is excited. Plan on matching it with the 5800 X3D. Yeah, man, that's killer. As you probably just heard, I'm running it with the 5600 X3D, which is kind of neck and neck with the 5800 in terms of just gaming performance. I've been pleasantly surprised. I did have some challenges with Baldur's Gate, but it's one particular section of one particular map in the Underdark that a lot of people were having issues with. It did seem to plague AMD more than NVIDIA, but it was across both GPU lines. But other than that, I mean, I've played The Last of Us, Spider-Man. Yeah, this thing is performing super well. So, sorry, getting sidetracked here with the comments, but $60 for the case. I think I added that. I don't know. We'll add it again. So, actually, let's just check the cart. So we've got the CPU MOBO, we've got the power supply, we've got that, and we've got the case. Okay, so don't crucify me, but this is for this build. Remember, we're trying to go as cheap as we can without making too many compromises or sacrifices. Well, this is it, guys. It's a 4060. And I say that because it's a little tiny bit better than a 3060, and it's $300. It has good performance, and I wish it was like 275. And I'm not going to run out and snatch one up or anything, but I'm going to keep an eye on it for a build like this. And when this drops another at least $25, I think this is the way to go. I mean, otherwise you're looking at, people are going to be all crazy at me about the AMD cards that cost that much money. It's just my personal preference in this moment. I feel like if you're building a brand new kind of real budget 1080p PC, I think this is the way to go. I already added that to cart. I don't know why I can't remember if I keep adding stuff. Now, I do want to see how much a 3060 12 gigabyte is. See, this is only 255, but this is a 3060 8 gigabyte. Now, that might be, you know, you're saving almost $50 there. That might be okay. If they had a 3060 12 gigabyte for that much, I think in that scenario, I would probably go with the 3060. Yeah, they don't have it. Let's see what Newegg has. Yeah, see, the 3060 12 gigabytes are $40 more, $38, $39 more than the 4060s. Now this is a 3060 Ti 8 gigabyte for $330. But again, we're trying to keep the cost down. I do think the 3060 Ti has better rasterization performance. I'd have to double check. We could go on Tech Power Up and see if you guys wanted to, but I do think the 3060 Ti has a few more CUDA cores than the 4060 does. Here's a different MSI, or no, this is sold by Beach Audio. Let's filter this and ship by Newegg. 329. So here's a Gigabyte WindForce OC 3060 12 gigabyte for 289. That's a pretty solid option too. I just feel like, I don't want to say the VRAM issue is an issue, right? But you're only there. People have shown there are some games in 1080p where they've been VRAM limited, but it's still few and far between. It would be better to have more. I think 12 is the sweet spot right now, where you're not going to run out, but maybe it's a little bit too much. Like, not too much. You can't hardly have too much, right? But I think that 12 would be the sweet spot, and that's why I typically recommend for a mid-range GPU, a 4070, or if you really want to go AMD, a 6800 XT, and get the 16 gigabytes, 6700, 6750 XT, have 12 gigabytes. Again, that's just my my leaning towards NVIDIA coming out. I certainly wouldn't fault you for saving 50 or $100 and buying the AMD card. I think at the end of the day, most people have more peace of mind with NVIDIA. I know that's kind of a hot take these days, but it will be forever. I just prefer NVIDIA. That being said, this flagship, this 7900 XTX that's over here, I mean, this thing is a monster. I mean, it'll pull 460 watts and boost to 3000 megahertz. Like, it is just a beast. I scored just over 17,000 points in Port Royal a little bit ago before I started the stream, which is not as good as my 4080. My 4080 hit almost 18,000 in Port Royal, but that's pretty close for an AMD GPU, which Port Royal is a 4K and ray tracing test. So Raw Tech says, where are you located? Just curious. I'm in Michigan. I'm in Kansas City, bro. I'm in Kansas City. So, $260 for a Zotac. We could maybe go there because, let's go to the cart. Make sure I didn't double add anything. I did not. So with a 4060, a Montec Air 100 ARGB, a Crucial P3 Plus, a power spec 650 watt power supply, and a Ryzen 5600X with a Gigabyte B450M, $961. No. I added the GPU twice. I was like, I know it was more than 500, but it wasn't that much. So we're at 661. And if you don't have RAM like I do, you're going to add another $40 to that. And so you're at $700. What you can make of that, I think it's going to depend on the individual. I think that for $700, that is going to be a pretty capable gaming rig. You're going to be able to play whatever you want in 1080p, and for a while. You don't have much of an upgrade path for the CPU. It's on an AM4 platform. You could go up to a 5800X3D, a 5600X3D if you have a Micro Center. You could do, and honestly, I don't know what they're selling the 5600 for. This is 193 as part of 159 as part of this bundle. I think the X3D, the 5600 is still $230, but I think that's a pretty handy, a pretty capable setup for $700. And if you want to go AMD, I'm not going to lie, yeah, you probably can get a little bit more price to performance ratio there. If you like AMD, if you want to deal with some of the issues that I've had with AMD. I try real hard on this channel not to bag on AMD, but I kind of sort of do in my personal life, if I'm honest. But that's a big reason why I wanted to build this all AMD system. I had a bad experience last year with a 6800 XT, and I wanted to challenge myself to try them again. And I thought the way to do that was with an AMD CPU and an AMD GPU, use smart access memory, get the best RAM I could, the best cooler I could. Like, this thing is just a hoss. I mean, and with this Noctua NHD 15 on here, I could pull the 5600X 3D out and put a 5950X in here, and this thing would be a total monster for everything. Right now it's a gaming monster. It's not really a productivity monster, but gaming wise with this CPU, it's just a beast. It really is. So all that being said, AMD can and does work. If I was tight on money and I didn't know a lot about troubleshooting PCs and whatnot, though, I would go with a 4060, even over like a you know, what would be a equivalent? Let's see here. So the $300 for the 4060. Let's go to graphics cards. Let's go to AMD. And let's filter price, lowest price. And this is going to pull up a bunch of weird stuff. Like Power Color AMD R7 like, how old is that? What even is that? Anyway, so a 6600 is $229. But a 6600 doesn't compare to the 4060, unless I'm mistaken. Now, a 6650 is probably, a 6650 XT is perhaps close. Gosh, that's only $229 for that ASRock. It's still only 8 gigabytes of VRAM though, so, you know, but if we did that, that's $70 off. That gets us closer to 600 anyway. It doesn't get us to 500, but so there's that as an option. I mean, it's not a bad option. A 6650 XT is a great 1080p GPU, but in order to max 1080p out, you really got to get up to a 6700 XT. And to be fair, a 6700 XT is gonna be better performance than a 4060. 7600s are $289. I feel like if they got this down to the price that the 6600s and that, like that 6650 XT, like if this was $230, that would almost be a no-brainer. You know, it's got pretty good 1080p performance. It's not as good as the 4060, but it's close. So with the prices being so similar, I think with DLSS 3 and frame generation, I think the 4060 is the way to go over this. Where is... I'm looking to see if they might have sold out of 6700 XTs. Well, no, here's 6700 XT 329. You know, it's tough, man. I don't know. It's going to add another $30 to the budget, but it would boost performance. But you don't get DLSS 3. I think just for funsies, I would like to do the 4060. You know, I haven't had my hands on one. I have not tested one personally myself. Well, that's not true. That's not true. I played Cyberpunk on a 4060 at LTX. That might have been a 4060 Ti though. I'd have to go back and watch my video to see for sure, but I did play on either a 4060 or 4060 Ti at LTX. And it was a good experience. So, and then now we're up to the cream of the crop stuff. So that just kind of is what it is. $600 to $700 in my estimation is what you're going to pay for a halfway decent entry-level gaming rig. You could lower the price a little bit more, and sacrifice, you could do a 3600, a Ryzen 5 3600 is like, I don't think Micro Center, do they have any? Well, don't show me RAM. Let's go PC parts, AMD processors. Okay, they do have, they have a 3600 for $85. You get a lot more performance. There's a lot higher boost clock on the 5600X than you get on this one, I think. Let's double check here. 3 megabytes L2, 32 megabytes of L3 cache. Can I remember that? What are the clock speeds? 3.6 boosts to 4.2. 3.6 boosts to 4.2. Oh, you know what I'm going to do here? Can I do... Can't do it in another tab. Where is a 5600X? 5600X. 3 megabytes L2. So they have the same amount of L2 and L3 cache, but this boosts to 4.6. What was the other one? 4.2? 4.6. 4.6, 4.6, 4.6. Yeah, 4.2. So you get an extra 400 megahertz. That's not small. That's a pretty decent boost in performance. That being said, you could do, let's change this around. What if we add this to cart? Let's go AM4 motherboards, AMD. Let's look for, how cheap of a B550 can we get if we're looking new? B550. And we want a micro ATX because we're going to get that killer deal on that Montec case for sure. So the deal was a 5600X and the B450 motherboard for $200. Actually, it was like $193. Oh, hey, what up, Ovi? Glad you tuned in. So we have, in order to make this make any sense, we have to find a motherboard that is like $80. Right? Because I gotta open up another tab here. Let's just do this way. And let's go back to PC parts, AMD processors. So $85 for the 3600. So 85 plus 95 for an ASRock is, oh my god, I can't do math. $180. 185 if you go with the B558 Aorus. This is the motherboard that comes in that bundle, and you get $20 off with an eligible processor. So let's see. Let's add this to cart. And now let's go back to the cart and delete the original bundle. So now we're at, well, 90 be 180, so we're 175. So we've shaved about $20 off. Remembering that we still don't have RAM in this build because I was using the RAM that I have. So add another $38, $40 to it, and we're back up to 680. But that's 682 with a 4060. I don't know. What if we do, let's remove the 4060 and let's do an RX 7600. I mean, you can get an ASRock for 259, 269 for a triple fan with some RGB. But we're going for cheap. We're going for cheap, so we're going to get this ASRock one. And you know what? Just for kicks and giggles here, because you guys don't, well, you might have the RAM, but assuming you don't have the RAM laying around like I do, let's just go ahead and, yeah, this is the kit right here. The Ripjaws 2x8, 3200 CL16. Add to cart. All right, now let's see where we're at. So, dropping the 4060 out, doing the 7600, but adding the RAM in, we're pretty much at the same price. I'm kind of curious how this would perform. I don't think it would be terrible. I'd rather have the 5600. And if we're talking about $20 here. So, you guys tell me, how tight are your budgets on these things? Could you, if you were in this predicament, would $20 make you or break you? 640 versus 680 essentially for 400 more megahertz of performance. I feel like it's worth it. At the same time, though, you could argue, well, let me run it how it is, and then later on, if we're buying this at Micro Center now, we could theorize that at some future point, maybe we could still get a 5600 X3D. You could certainly, there's still 230. 5800 X3D in the future, I feel like would be the way to go. And that is something that I like. Yeah, they're 300. They were 330. They're 300 now. I think Newegg just had them down to 269 though. Or that might have been Amazon. Either Amazon or Newegg had or has these for 269 right now. Or is it 289? Son of a gun. Let's check. So you start out with a 3600. You keep your $20. Put it aside for a later future CPU upgrade. Oh yeah, they're 332. And someday you get something like this or a 58. Yeah, I probably wouldn't buy a 5800X. I would buy a 5700X or a 5800X 3D or a 5900X or 5950X. The 5800X just doesn't give you really anything over a 5700X, and it's just a lot hotter. So they don't really have that. You could do the 5600 X3D for 230, which would be a good little upgrade. And then, with that, I don't know that I'd throw a killer GPU at that 3600, but if you put the 5600 X3D in there or a 5800 X3D, now you're talking you could pull that RX 7600 out and pretty much throw, even if you went up to a 5600X, I would argue that you could put any GPU you want in there. In fact, the 3600 would probably run any GPU you want as well. Maybe in some titles in 1080p, you're going to get CPU bound, CPU limited, bottleneck, whatever you want to call it, in some esports titles. But honestly, you'd probably be fine to just keep the 3600, and you could pull that out and pull the RX 7600 out, and when the 7700 XT comes out or the 7800 XT comes out, and maybe they're more affordable in 2 years down the line, you build this for $640 today, and in a couple of years, you manage to snag maybe you can find a used 5600X or something. They're going to be cheap in a few years on eBay and on Marketplace. So, you build this now for $640, and in a couple of years, you've saved up a few $100, and you upgrade your CPU, and, maybe in a couple of years, you get a 7700 XT for $350. that's a reasonable upgrade path. It's not quite the same as going AM5, getting a B650 board with a 7600 today, and then, all the future iterations of AM5 that are going to come out, with a simple BIOS update, you could drop them on your platform. But we're going for cheap, right? So I think this is a reasonable option. I did look at going used, and I've double checked this to try and make sure I don't dox myself. But this was available on Marketplace. I found this yesterday for $500. I don't know what case this is. It looks okay. It's got a mesh front. It's got 2 RGB fans in the front, 1 in the back. But this guy says it's a weird ad, so it kind of, I don't know how to take it. $500 today only. Price is subject to increase. It's today only deal. Secure with a $250 deposit. Like, who says that? Play every game at 1080p or 1440p. I've been selling computers for 10 years. I'm not going to show you the guy's messages, but I asked him several times for the specs, and he was very vague about it. Very vague. Like, I asked him what CPU it was, and he said it was a Ryzen 5, and I'm like, okay, but like, that could be like one of 20 CPUs, like there's 3 generations of Ryzen 5 out there, like, or more. So then he came back with it was a 2600, which, is even less than that 3600, right? It's a 1650 Ti. I said that looks like a 1660, or I said that looks like a 1660 Super. Is that what it is? He said it's a 1650 Super. A 1650 Super. I put the emphasis on the wrong syllable there. But it's got 16 gigabytes of RAM. I think that's 3200 CL16. I think those are, I can't tell if that's Team Group or Ripjaws. I think those are Ripjaws. So it's decent RAM. Stock box cooler on the 2600, which is totally adequate. It does have an EVGA 600 watt power supply in there. So I had this thought, if I could make a deal for this is kind of a weird video, just shows the lights, I guess. But if I can make a deal for this without the GPU and the RAM, because I already have the RAM, maybe this would be something that I could slap a 4060 or an RX 7600 in. So I messaged him. I thought if he takes the RAM, I mean, this is not worth $500 as it sits here right now. Like, I probably wouldn't, if you had $400, I wouldn't pay more than $300 for this. It's probably worth $400 though. Like, if you have nothing and you've only got $400, something like this would get you gaming. But it's a 1650 Super, so it's got 6 gigabytes of VRAM. It's not a fast GPU. It would game, but you're going to be pretty limited. But if I could get this with this CPU and take the RAM out for $200, well, now I can throw the RAM in there that I already have, and I could get a 4060 for $300, and now for $500, I have successfully built a budget gaming PC. And I think that the 2600 would do okay with the 4060. I don't think we're going to be spitting out so many frames that, it's going to super overwhelm it. It may be CPU bottlenecked a little bit, but it might be okay. But if it was severely bottlenecked, the 2600 could come out. You saw that $90, $85 for a 3600, or like $160, $150 for a 5600X could drop in there. You could throw a 5600X 3D, 5800X 3D. So there's options. And again, though, I asked him about the motherboard. He said it's an ASRock and told me about the ARGB connections. I'm like, okay, but like, what kind of ASRock? Is it a B series board? Is it an X board? Like, thought you had, I didn't say this, but I was like, I thought you had 10 years of PC building experience. Like, why are you not? I'm asking for the specs. Obviously, I know more than the average person. Why don't you just tell me the specs? So at the end of the day, he did come back and he said that he would do 250 without the RAM and the GPU. I don't think I'm going to take that. If he reconsiders and will do 200, I think the case with the fans and the motherboard and the CPU and the cooler and the power supply is probably worth 200. But that's the most I would pay for it in that configuration. And again, that GPU is not really worth anything to me. You know, RAM is super cheap, so I really don't think. I think $400 would be a reasonable-ish price for this, but I wouldn't pay more than $300 for it personally. So that just is what it is. So that leads me back to this, you know, unfortunately, budget gaming PC building is, it's not cheap right now. There are some options to go cheaper than buying all the latest and greatest stuff. I think those two builds that we kind of looked at with the 3600 and the RX 7600 or that 5600X bundle with the 4060. I really do. I think that 5600X bundle with a 4060, I think that would perform pretty well. I think you'd be pretty happy with that. I'd kind of like to try it. I'd like to try it. I don't think I'm going to, not anytime soon. I don't want to spend any more money building PCs especially not PCs that I'm really gonna like game hard on. But I think that would be a reasonable exercise for you to try out. And even if you don't have a micro center, you could kind of replicate this. You know, really the only thing that was there was that bundle on the that you couldn't get elsewhere is the bundle with the 5600X and the motherboard. But you know, you can find 3600s for 80-ish, 90-ish dollars all over the place. You can find $80 to $120 AM4 boards. So you could do this build without a micro center. You can buy there's even cheaper DDR4 RAM out there than $38. I think I've seen some down as low as $28 and $30. But you know, $38-ish, $35 for RAM. You know, get a $35, $40 M.2. Power supply is going to be kind of an issue. If you can't get that power spec, you know, that Thermaltake Smart everybody's been buying, it's not a highly rated power supply, but a lot of people have been using it. And at least as of late, I haven't heard about anybody burning their house down with it. So, you know, that might be an option for $60 or $70, whatever those things were going for. But there are some options out there. I think if you're trying to sneak in at 500, you're gonna have to scrounge Jawa and Mercari and eBay, and I think you're gonna have to find some deals. And you could put something together that's reasonable. But if you want to do new, and have a warranty on everything and have everything be perfectly clean and brand new, which is a lot of fun. That's pretty cool. You know, $640. You know, we're $140 over that magical $500 budget, which is, you know, what is that, 25% of that? So it's a decent increase in that budget. But it's not outlandish. And you get a 6-core 12-thread CPU, a pretty decent mid-range motherboard, get a 7600. I mean, I think this would get you gaming. And if you want a little bit faster GPU, I think the 4060 or a 3060 12 gigabyte, if they're the same money, if they're the same money or cheaper, I would go with the 3060 12 gigabyte. At the same money or the 3060 being more money, I would go with the 4060. But that's kind of what you're looking at as of right now in August of 2023. So this video has been going on for a little bit, so we're going to go ahead and bounce. Thanks for everybody that stopped by and took a listen. Drop me a like, drop some comments in here, give me a subscription if you don't mind. You know, I'm trying to grow the channel and get things popping here, so you know, any support that I can get from you, I appreciate it. It means a lot. So thanks. Hope everybody has a good night. Peace.